we're going to take sex education out of the schools and put it back in the homes where it belongs.
Yeah, that seems like a weird, awkward place for the sex education. But anyway, that is Republican gubernatorial candidate Charles Herbster, who doesn't want you to have much sex education, but we've been getting a recent education on some of his sexual assault, unfortunately, in this case. He has been facing accusations from multiple women. Over the weekend, a second woman has come forward and talked about the experience she had with Charles Herbster, who I will remind you has been endorsed by Donald Trump and who was defended by Donald Trump after the second woman came out with her experience. This is Elizabeth Todsen. She alleges that she had been sexually groped by Herbster back in 2019 and said her experience had been thoroughly described in previous reporting by the Nebraska Examiner. So we know of some of the experiences of women who are as yet still anonymous. So we had known about what had happened to her. Now she is identifying herself. After all that came out, they have the rally. Trump's there. He calls Herbster a very good man who has been maligned. Trump says Herbster was innocent of what he called despicable charges and says, I defend people when I know they're good. A lot of people, they look at you and say, you don't have to do it, sir. I defend my friends. So he's told he doesn't need to defend this guy, but he has so much in common with him in terms of the assaults that I guess he feels he must. But it wasn't just Trump at the rally who was defending him. They had like a priest or something who decided to defend this guy in a really awful way. Take a look at this.
This is a man of God. And we cannot even imagine what he's going through. This is bigger than just a governorship. This is a good man. This man, the things that have been said against him are ripping him at the soul.
Okay, so the only person whose soul is being ripped is him. The accusations, and you can see that he's taking them very seriously because he got his head bowed. And they're not worried about the soul ripping that a politician, a person in a position of authority who is trusted, is going around sexually assaulting women in his own party. See him as a potential mentor, someone who it's important for them to know and work with, a colleague. Instead, he's apparently a predator, and he goes and violates multiple women. And when they come out knowing that they risk losing their political career to accuse a man, in this case of their own party, of doing this, they're maligned publicly by religious figures, by the former president of the United States, Francesca. It is disgusting.
I mean, and it's the Brett Kavanaugh playbook. You know, if someone accuses you of sexual assault, just cry big old crocodile tears, and you'll probably get away with it if you are wealthy and powerful and a white man. Sad to say, and it's true. And no other example of that could be truer than Donald Trump himself. And I think it is, you know, for as far back in the rearview mirror as sometimes it feels the Me Too movement is, it's not. And I think we have to thank Donald Trump's election for a lot of women saying enough is enough. We cannot now elect an accused rapist to the highest office. And I'm gonna say something. You know what? I think it's time. I think it is time. And I think that's what spurred it. So it's funny how this awful man can do that. But it also is funny the way the Republican Party, this is not obviously their first predator. I mean, we remember the way Betsy DeVos basically turned like any kind of investigation into college campus rape on its head and tried to vindicate those who had been accused of campus rape, right? As if that's the problem. No, the problem on college campuses is that there's way too many false accusations of rape. We all know that, right? Everyone knows that. Statistically, that is true. And I am being completely facetious. So it's like a gut punch when you remember this is a party that not just sweeps under the rug. This is a party that celebrates, that actually defends the predators. And you want that dude in your home telling you about sex ed?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And that all their media will rally to defend these people. I mean, like, you know, we should perhaps be more specific. So this is Charles Herbster. And you might think, oh, well, wait, didn't you guys already talk about someone? Wasn't there allegation? Well, you might be mixing it up with some other candidates, because there's multiple candidates that have been endorsed by Donald Trump and others in the Republican establishment that they're not calling to resign. Herbster's one, But of course, Trump had his own accusations. By the way, he's also endorsed Herschel Walker, who has allegations of spousal abuse. Sean Parnell, who had allegations of spousal abuse against another one of Trump's employees. And after they broke up after the allegations of abuse, Trump picked the abuser and then tried to get him elected. And Roy Moore as well, he stuck with him. So, but honestly, at this point, it would be very difficult to imagine a candidate who could have as many allegations of sexual assault and harassment as Donald Trump did. They will always be at a lower level than him, a horrendous amount of just flagrant years of harassment and assault and all that. But like, it's not just that he ran, he did win and they've stuck with him. Why would we expect them to have higher standards for any of the others? They just don't care. By the way, we showed you the polls last week, literally asking Republican voters, is X an issue for you for a candidate? And for things as broad as homophobic comments, anti-Semitic comments, spousal abuse, it's not as big of a problem as it is for Republicans. This is not Francesca and I speculating. This is not a hypothesis about what will play. They say it to pollsters. It doesn't bother me that much if they are known for having beaten their wives and girlfriends.
Yeah.
Or in this case, sexual assault. I don't remember if they asked about that specifically, but you're seeing it right now. Herbster is still a candidate. There are 8 women who have accused him. The 2 that have come forward so far are women of his own party who have a lot to lose. And so they will do the Kavanaugh playbook. They'll say, well, these women are just trying to get famous, just trying to make a name for themselves. No, they stand to lose everything in terms of their career in accusing Herbster of this. But they're still doing it, Francesca, and it's not having any effect.
I mean, for me, it makes me think of the reckoning that is coming with young Republicans who, like, I believe are misguided and deluded and probably just assumed the politics of their parents and are fairly well off. However, I've met a few young Republican women and you're like, babe, you deserve more. You know what I mean? And like, oh, I'm not gonna work with you on your pro-life agenda or your anti-choice agenda. But don't you see that like the Republican Party has been completely like running roughshod over women's rights, even when it comes to these kinds of issues? Don't you see how like immoral, ungodly, if you will, it is to do something like this? This is the party that is now passing legislation that says it is illegal to get an abortion, even in instances of rape. And I was just looking up the other day, in many states, a rapist can claim paternity and like have custody over that child. So like, what are we talking about here? So it is not, look, it's not on me. I can't stomach that kind of coalition building. But I would say to all of us to like understand that there is a bridge to be made with young Republican women and Republican women more generally, because they've been facing a crossroads, which is either go along with a misogynist party and shut up, or have a minimal amount of autonomy and sovereignty, and so like, I don't know. I hope, literally, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I actually do want a better Republican Party with more women in leadership. A lot of them are like Marjorie Taylor Greene sort of animatronic meme lords, and who are just sort of crazy for the sake of it. But maybe there's others out there. I don't know, John.
And look, like I try to imagine if I was like a 19-year-old conservative woman and I was thinking about getting into politics or whatever, who are your role models? Like even just on the female side, like, is it someone like Marjorie Greene who just, I think it was yesterday, said that there shouldn't be like a living wage or any aid for childcare because then women won't feel they need to get married because they'll have married the government? Like what, Candace Owens, Tommy Lauren, Megyn Kelly, Jeanine Pirro, Laura Ingraham, Ainsley Earhart. Are any of these women that are sending a strong message to young conservative women, don't put up with any of these guys' BS if they abuse you? No, it is, you are supposed to be submissive. And so they get put in a really terrible position, one that I can't even imagine having to be in. They're not the only group in the Republican Party that if you're a legitimate conservative, you gotta be in the room with a lot of people who fundamentally hate you. But this is what it is like, and can you be shocked with all of what they say about feminism and about men and what makes men strong and everything? They're producing men like this. And you have like your best chance of making it as a Republican woman is to be an even more out front, aggressive supporter of this.
Yes.
Those are the sorts of women that do well, like the Marjorie Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts.
Yes, not the Liz Cheneys, right? You can't, no, that can't be your role model. You're not going anywhere with that.
No, if you point it out, you are gone. That's it.
Yes.
Or what's her face from the 5? It's been so long now. Like, I literally can't remember her name because she's been gone for so long. She was a brunette. She's on the 5.
They throw them down the memory chute.
She was popular.
Kimberly Guilfoyle?
No, it wasn't Kimberly Guilfoyle. I cannot believe that I'm blanking on her name. But she was on the 5 and I think got outnumbered. And she made an accusation. Where's she been? For like 4 or 5 years. Yep. That's it. You're done.
Your party wants you to shut up. That is it. And you better, if you want to make it as a conservative woman, you better cross your fingers and hope that something like this doesn't happen to you, right? It is all about victim blaming. It is all about what can you do to avoid being sexually assaulted, not how can sexual assaulters and predators stop and be held accountable.
Exactly. By the way, Fascist Killa is the name, but yes, thank you. It's Andrea Centauros. Where's she? She was up and coming. They loved her. And then she made the accusation, and then that's it. Jesus. Anyway, okay, we're burning through this hour already. Anyway, if you want to know more about the accusations, they're out there. Maybe more of the women will come forward. They shouldn't have to. There's already multiple women who have been very specific at what happened. Nobody cares. Trump is not retracting his endorsement. Herbster's just calling it a lie. That's what they will do. That's what they will do. And lots of Republicans go along with this. Yeah, no, it's just a lie. They're just trying to hurt you, and then you might find that it happens to you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.